Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kids Are Talking. We have a great show for you tonight. We have three guests from all over the country. It's going to be a good panel. We're talking about anxiety and depression, or we're talking about the effects of mental health, which is actually a continuation of the anxiety and depression show that was last week. Everybody has a unique story to tell, and everybody's here to get a little help for themselves and also to help everybody that's watching and inspire other people to really face their challenges and move ahead and become better people. So if you're watching, please like and subscribe, and also feel free to drop a comment in the chat box. We're monitoring the chats on all of our social channels, so if you have something to address to the panel, we're going to try to bring that onto the show. Without any more housekeeping items, we're going to just have a quick little intro, and then we'll get right at the show. So Kids Are Talking, and we'll see you on the other side.
All teenagers are going through really similar things right now because everything's crazy.
So for everybody's watching, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Don is a family therapist. He's an expert on relationships and communication. He's the author of 9 books. He's also a published poet, and he's coming out soon with a book called The Echoes of COVID. He's also an art collector, and he's got a lot of other great, interesting traits. But without any further ado, let's bring Dr. Don out. Hey, Don, how you doing today?
Nice to see you, my friend.
Are you ready?
I am, but we haven't had our own little chat in a while. This is number 10, 10th show of the summer of Kids Are Talking.
Episode 10 of season 2, yeah.
Episode 10 and part 2 of last week's show of our mental health series. And wow, I mean, there's a lot going on in America. A lot to take in, right?
It's a tough time for everybody. And the more that we do this show, the more I realize how much people need to hear the stories of what these teens and young adults are sharing with everybody.
Yeah. Let's just meet the kids, and then I have
okay, yeah, let me bring the panel out.
Bring the panel out. I have a lot to say.
Okay.
But like health, our mental health is being tested all the time, isn't it?
It is. We've got Dylan, we've got Whitley, and we've got Maya.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We love having you here, you brave souls. And a lot of people are going to be interested in what you have to say tonight, because what you have to say tonight is what a lot of people are feeling right now. If you remember when COVID broke out, everybody was saying, oh, kids aren't going to suffer from anything. The COVID's going to be fine for kids, teenagers. We don't have to worry about them. They don't have to get vaccinated. Well, now, guess what? 4.2 million kids in this country have got COVID. I'll say it again, 4.2 million kids. And in the past week, 94,000 kids have COVID. That's in the past week. 94,000 kids have COVID. This is a hard show for me. It's a serious show for me because we're all worried now. The Delta variant, everybody thought we were out of the woods. In my new COVID poetry book, Echoes of COVID, I thought my last poem was No Man's Land. But actually, we're in no man's land. We're not in no man's land anymore. We're in the aftermath. And what I mean by the aftermath is we are now suffering from what is called long COVID. There's an article, Lingering COVID Disrupts Life of Youngsters. This was in the New York Times, a very, very disturbing article about what we're calling long COVID. These are teenagers, for all of you who are in denial about what is going on in this country. These are teenagers that are suffering from fatigue, mental health problems, basketball players that can't even lift their arms to shoot a basket, neurological issues. This is called, the new word for you all to hear tonight is called long COVID. This is what is now happening in America. Teenagers are suffering from it. So for all of you that do not think vaccination is an important aspect of life, call Governor DeSantis and tell him to watch the show in the archives tonight so he can really see, as kids are going back to school, that he is jeopardizing the lives of young people in this country. Mandating that schools do not wear masks, give me a break. Governor DeSantis, if you're watching this show, I hope you listen to what I'm saying and what the teenagers are saying tonight, as well as the state of Georgia and a lot of other states that are really not paying attention to this. Let me cite something to you. Ben Franklin, by the way. My son, Jared Cohen, had an article yesterday in the Boston Globe, or not yesterday, the other day. For all of you that don't know the story about Ben Franklin, the story of our founding fathers and mothers, his son was suffering smallpox. At 4 years old, he was compromised. His immune system was compromised. He made a decision not to vaccinate his son. His son died at 4 years old. So, Jared, thank you for putting that story out to the Boston Globe this week. A very powerful message for all of us to digest about the seriousness of what is going on in this country. I'm just appalled by it, and this long COVID is appalling, and it makes me insane. It gives me mental health problems. So this is why this introduction tonight is really heartfelt and more serious than some of my other introductions. So for all of you who are questioning whether we are out of no man's land, we are not out of no man's land, and we are now living in an aftermath of really now having to really pay attention and protect ourselves and think of others and protect our mental health. We have enough issues with mental health to begin with. But long COVID really, the mental health problems, you can, as I say every week on the show, you cannot get into an emergency room right now. You cannot even make an appointment with most therapists in America. There's that much mental health. And let's talk about the Hudson Yards, by the way, about the young boy who was on the vessel at Hudson Yards in New York City with his parents. There apparently have been 3 other incidents, at least 2 or 3 anyway, where he jumped off the vessel in New York City at Hudson Yards committing suicide. The other thing we didn't mention last week was the insurrection in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. There were 4 officers that committed suicide. I'm going to say it again. 4 officers were traumatized by that event on January 6th in Washington, D.C., committing suicide. So for anybody that thinks that mental health insurance and mental health is not an issue, and that mental health insurance needs to really get off their ass, listen to this damn show, and realize that people are not getting covered for it. $6,000 deductibles. If you're not an approved provider, you can't be seen by the person you really want to see. I don't get it, so I'm going to talk to Jill Biden tonight, too. If Jill Biden is watching the show, my understanding is, Jill, that you are very interested in mental health, as well as your president and husband, Joe Biden. Nobody's talking about it. Where is the coverage and protection, Mike, for mental health in this country? It sickens me. That people who
Yeah.
want to see me can't even see me because I'm not on their plan.
Listen, Don, I hope that all these governors and public officials are watching, or at least they get the word out, because these kids here, they have a lot to say about this, and everything that you've been addressing is a major issue. And I'm personally tired of everybody arguing over which side of the aisle they're on, because we're all, guess what, we're all on this side of the ocean, and we're all in this together, and we should be elevating each other and helping each other through these hard times instead of arguing over who's right and who's wrong.
And why are there not more kid talk shows? Like, why is Kids Are Talking, as far as I know, one of the only shows ever to have you three and your group of people to come on and talk about the things we're talking about tonight? As we've seen in our first 9 shows, teenagers have quite a bit to say. And look how you're being affected now. The other stat, before I really get into the three of you, is this is another amazing thing. Only half the kids between 12 and 17 have been vaccinated in this country. Less than half of the kids, 12 to 17, have been vaccinated in this country. 15% of these kids are suffering from long COVID, by the way. 15 to 20% of these kids are suffering from long COVID. And then we don't have our 12-year-olds vaccinated at all. And we're talking about not having masks at weddings and schools. Me, I tend to be a pretty liberal, relaxed guy, but even me, I am now seeing the seriousness of this. So let's get our 12-year-olds vaccinated. Let's get the 12 to 17-year-olds, the under 12 vaccinated, the 12 to 17-year-olds vaccinated. And the last bombshell I'm going to drop, because not all of you have watched our shows. Do you know that there are kids in this country that are actually getting vaccinated behind their parents' backs? Their anti-vaxxer parents are telling their kids they can't get vaccinated and they can't wear masks. They are going behind their parents' backs to get vaccinated. Do I need to say any more to introduce the show? I don't think so. And now it's time to hear from all of you. Welcome, Maya. Welcome, Whitley. Welcome, Dylan. You can see my mood. I'm a little grouchy. I'm a little serious, and I'm feeling a little intense. And that's why you're on tonight, to expand my thoughts and feelings. So I guess I'll start with you, Maya, because you're new to the show. And welcome to our show tonight. And perhaps I can start by asking you, first of all, do you want to have any reaction to to anything I just said?
Yeah, it's what happens then often when you get COVID is you need to isolate. And I can't imagine what it's like for these kids who don't have the maturity yet, who don't have the coping mechanisms yet, to then deal with isolation and quarantining away from their social network, away from their families, especially if there are people in their life who can't get vaccinated or who aren't vaccinated, and what that is doing to them long term, the trauma that that's creating, and all of the work that will have to be undone by great therapists and other doctors. So their work is cut out for them, but it's just imperative that we vaccinate the rest of America and the world.
And tell us your story, Maya. You're on tonight for the first time. What made you want to come on, and what do you want to share with all of us that will be helpful for everybody who's been watching Kids Are Talking tonight?
Well, I am currently, thank you for having me on the show. I am currently an aspiring neuroscientist. I'm a PhD student in Pittsburgh, and I actually study the neurobiology of bipolar disorder using brain imaging. And what is crucially important, what I am trying to communicate to almost everyone that I get to talk to, is that we need to erase the stigma surrounding psychiatric disorders and mental illness. And the reason, especially, is that these disorders aren't invisible. They're not even quite simply mental. They are physical illnesses. These are physical disorders because we are seeing biological signatures in the brain as one of many places, in genetics and whatnot, of these disorders as real, concrete things that are happening and affecting the body and the minds of the people living with these and managing with these disorders.
Such as long COVID that I talked about tonight, the thing that we're now calling long COVID.
Mm-hmm. Just like long COVID, bipolar disorder, anxiety, depression, PTSD, OCD, all of these different psychiatric disorders are very real in the body and the brain. There is evidence, there is proof. So we need to be communicating this so that it's not, quote, all in your head. These are real disorders. These are physical, just as real as physical illnesses.
We've talked about the connection of mind and body, that the mind is very powerful. By the way, we only know less than 10% about what really goes on in the human brain. Mm-hmm. It's an area that's been highly debated and explored and continues to be explored. But I was curious, as we're all going to be on this show, is how'd you get to where you are to have this interest, this passion in terms of your own personal journey? What was it that have you had some of your own treatment, and what has that been like for you? And how did you get to where you are to have this interest and this knowledge?
Being an advocate for mental health and wanting to study bipolar disorder has been something that I've been interested in since I was 16 years old. It is a topic that is very close to me, very near and dear to me. It's affected many of the people in my life. And after seeing them, how they've had to deal with it, manage it, and at times suffer from it, has compelled me to want to go into this work, especially after seeing that there is such a stigma surrounding mental illness.
So people close to you, you've been exposed to people close to you that have had experience with bipolar disorders and all other kinds of mental issues.
Yes. And what got me particularly interested in it is that there were a lot of artists that I've known who have bipolar disorder and other mental illnesses. And that led me to read a book by Dr. Kay Redfield Jamison, a prominent researcher and author who has bipolar disorder and studies it. And she wrote a book called Touch with Fire about the connection between creativity and mental illness. And that got me to wonder, well, why is it so common in people who are creative, in addition to people who aren't? And then that led me to read her more literature on bipolar disorder, what it's like to live with bipolar disorder. And then I just wanted to know, well, how can we end it? How can we improve it? How can we improve the treatment? How can we prevent suicide and then long-term suffering in people who have bipolar disorder and other psychiatric disorders?
Can you tell people what bipolar disorder is for people that don't know it by definition?
Yes, bipolar disorder was also formerly known as manic depression. It's a chemical imbalance in which there's a high and there's a low. So I try to look at it like a balance scale. We will feel happy and sad, to put it simply. And then folks with bipolar disorder, when they feel happy, they may feel extra happy. They may feel that high, that euphoria, that grandiosity. That is called mania. And then when folks with bipolar disorder feel sad, they might feel extra sad, also known as when they feel depressed. They feel hopeless, they feel restless, they feel frustrated. They feel this frustration with this inability to do almost anything. And then there's also suicidal ideation. And then go ahead. I was going to say there's actually what we're learning even more about now is that there are also different types of mania. There's the mania that we've seen mostly portrayed in the media, this classical mania, which was what I was just talking about, this sort of positive, productive energy, rapid talking, and wanting to go out and spending money, risk-taking, sensation-seeking. But then we also know that there is another type of mania. It's called dysphoric or mixed mania, where folks will experience both elements of mania and depression, such as they will feel agitated, have racing thoughts, and act on impulse in response, act impulsively in response to experiencing negative affect or distress.
Maya, what I want to ask you, because I want to get a little personal with you, if that's okay. Mm-hmm. People that you know that have been close to you, how have they been treated, and how would friends and family respond to people that have had this disorder in your personal life? Mm-hmm. That you know? Can you please share that with us?
Yeah. One thing that I've learned from seeing it, from reading, and from just, again, learning and having people close to me is that mental illness and bipolar disorder especially is something that can affect not just the person dealing with it, but the entire family and their friends. Because when you see the person that you love or that you care about going through an episode, it hurts you because you want to feel for them. You want to do something about it. And where that becomes difficult is when the person who is dealing with bipolar disorder, who has it, may not want to seek treatment for it. Sometimes people enjoy the mania because it can make them feel more productive, more creative, and they like the high. Those folks might not want to take their medication because they enjoy the mania. There are also folks, and then they might be in denial. They might not want to be treated. And then it can feel sort of like being helpless, like you want to help them, but they don't want to help themselves.
So what did you do with some of these people in your life? How did you help these people that touched you in your personal life with what they were struggling with? What did you do to help them, and what was the end result for them?
I think the question is more about, I think the question that I want to address is what was the end result for them? And the end result is that there technically isn't an end result. These people are, the people that I'm talking about are still living their lives, but they're not medicated properly, or they might not take medication at all. And because of that, because of the effects of that on their behavior, has led them to have to sort of sever ties. It affects their relationships with other people in their family and their friends. And that can be a consequence of poor treatment choice. That can be a consequence of the individual themselves not wanting to accept, not just be compliant with medication, but accept the terms of their illness.
How has this affected your mental health, being on the show and being on your own personal journey? How is all of this knowledge? You obviously have a lot of knowledge. I think people would like to hear a little bit about you, how it's affected you personally, being around this.
Yeah, it's definitely made me sad. It's made me feel helpless and powerless. People that I want to help, people that I would want to be in my life and their family and friends' lives, but who just when they're not taking care of their health, it affects the health of those around them, especially the mental health. And that can be a tragedy. And so it definitely is tragic. It makes me sad. And at the same time, it makes me want to push forward. What we were talking about before, how mental health is not treated the same way as physical health when it comes to insurance coverage. That is a whole other issue that has me, that why I want to study it, why I want to move forward with working with it. Is
By the way,
because
if Simone Biles had a physical injury, would she be considered a quitter in the Olympics? Remember, it was her mental health. She wasn't suffering from a broken ankle or a broken leg. So we always have to bring that fact back. Have you been in therapy at all, Maya? Have you had any psychotherapy experience?
Yes.
And was it helpful for you? What did you learn in your own psychotherapy experience?
What I've learned from therapy in general is that it can help anyone with anything. I believe that therapy is something that can only help someone better themselves, because what the most important thing I think therapy can do is that it gives us coping strategies and coping mechanisms to digest what we are currently experiencing, what we have experienced in the past, and how to digest and cope with things moving forward, how to regulate our emotions, and how that can affect our interpersonal relationships.
Every therapist in America has been in therapy, and if they haven't, that's malpractice, in my opinion. So, Dylan, let's go to Dylan. Dylan, you look like you got a lot to tell us. Tell us your story. What made you want to come on here tonight?
Well, I've been dealing with suicidal ideation, anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD since I was 12 years old.
You have the works,
huh?
You've got a lot of different things. Like I was just saying.
Yeah, I got a lot of things. And 17 through 20 years old, I've been in mental hospitals for suicidal ideation, self-harm, and I still struggle with anxiety, and I got like body dysmorphia. I got like
you tell people what body dysmorphia is, Dylan.
Well, for me, is when I look in the mirror, I basically see something different than what other people are seeing, like how my body looks, how my face looks, whatever. And that's just like I basically see something different than what other people interpret. That's how it is for me.
So what kind of treatment have you been getting for all of this, Dylan?
I'm still currently trying to get treatment. It's been kind of hard for me. I've been going to therapy for years, and I've been doing bad with it. So I'm still trying to currently go to therapy and do my stuff.
And what makes it so hard for you, Dylan? What's the biggest struggle that you're having right now?
I always feel low. I never have a high. I'm always depressed, having suicidal thoughts all the time. I'm anxious all day, to where like I start shaking, things like that. And it's just like on a daily basis, I just don't feel happy. I'm just always depressed.
And what kind of therapy have you had in terms of, has it been medication, combination medication therapy? What kind of therapy have you had?
I've just had regular therapy. I tried group therapy, and things with medication. For me, I have bad reactions to medication, so I kind of don't know what to do about the medication situation until I find the right medication for me.
And you're still struggling to find that, right?
Yeah.
What kind of hospitalizations have you had, and what's been your experience in being in hospitals?
Well, I've been on 5150
We had a
many
discussion
times.
by the way, we had a discussion about 5150 last week.
Yeah.
For anybody that I suggest people watch last week's show as we discussed 5150 and what goes on in the psychiatric hospitals in this country. So can you tell us your own experience with the 5150 and what went on in the psychiatric hospitals for you?
Well, basically, you're getting watched 24/7 by somebody and to see if you're okay. And it wasn't helping because I was having anxiety attacks and stuff in the hospital to where they had to straight up put me down and give me a shot to chill me out because I was going through a lot of bad things in my life and I was self-harming and all that. And in the hospital, they try to give you as much medication as you can for them to help you out, but no medication has helped me. It just makes me feel really bad.
How did you feel you were treated in the hospital? Do you feel it was humane, or did you feel barbaric in there? Or did you feel like you were being treated with respect and dignity, or not?
I've had a couple where I felt like I've been treated pretty good, but I've kind of struggled being at some of the other ones, like with the staff and how they treat people and stuff. It wasn't very good.
How has this affected your family and friends seeing you suffer like this?
Um, Bad. I mean, I've cut off a lot of relationships with friends.
Mm,
Uh, I barely have any friends now. I'm very like lonely. I struggle really bad. I lost my aunt to suicide when I was
uh,
like around 12 years old, and that's
sorry to
when
hear. Sorry to hear that,
my
Dylan.
mental health started getting really bad once my I found out that my aunt committed suicide because I was close to
Terrible.
her.
That's a
Yeah.
terrible loss. Terrible loss. Are your friends? Do you not have friends because you feel that they can't handle what's going on with you and not there for you, or you just don't feel you want to be around them?
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't feel like I really want to be around people. I have trust issues and me having a low self-esteem. I feel like I never want to go outside, never want to talk to anybody.
Mm.
And it's just, I like feel really bad about myself all the time. So I struggle to do anything at all.
And how about your family? And how is your family with you with your struggle?
Um, I mean, they've suffered through it. I mean, they've called the cops on me many times to go into the mental hospitals and stuff because I was cutting myself and having
Mhm.
suicidal ideation. And I'm still kind of struggling with my family on my mental health stuff because they don't really understand it very
Mhm.
much. So it's like I kind of gotta hide it, and it's hard to hide it all the time.
What's helping you the most, Dylan, right now? Would you say with what you what's the most helpful thing for you?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm struggling so severely. Like I'm hoping to get help and stuff because in the end, I don't want to like end up, like my aunt or something like that because I
Right.
struggle with mental health so bad. Like I have suicidal thoughts bad and stuff every day, and it's really hard to fight.
Are you working now? What are you doing in your everyday life right now?
For me, working is very hard for me right now. I've been working for like a few years because of my mental health has been so bad. It's like
Mhm.
hard for me to get out and go do anything. So I've been like living off of SSI basically and stuff like that. So
Well, I think we talked. Actually, Maya, we talked about it, and it came up again last week in last week's show. It comes up through all of our shows. The creative process. Do you have any creative outlets or physical outlets that have been helpful for you? Because we talked about the
I
importance of
do the
creativity.
only thing that helps me is I do music. I mean, that's the only thing that kind of helps me out really. I don't really do anything else.
What is the thing that helps you out, Dylan?
Um just just music, really.
Music.
I mean,
Ah, what kind of
that's
music?
what's
Do you play music, or you just
I
you play
rap.
it?
I
You
rap
like
and
to rap?
stuff.
You rap?
Yeah.
Do you write your own rap? You sing rap? What do you do?
Yeah, I write my own stuff.
You write your own stuff. So what
Yeah.
does that do? Is that helpful? Like that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it helps me
Poetry.
get
It's
out my
poetry, right?
emotions.
That is. I'm a
Yeah.
poet myself. I mean, a lot of stuff in my. I like to rap. What do you like to rap about?
Just just my life, what I go through, my mental illness and what it's like to basically deal with it every day. I just write whatever I'm thinking.
Anything you want to rap about tonight with us?
Oh no, I'm too nervous. I
Too
couldn't tonight.
nervous.
I'm too nervous.
It's very brave for you to be here, Dylan. I just want you to know that. So, rapping and music, is that the particular music that it helps you get your anger out and your frustrations
Yeah.
out?
Yeah.
What do you think about my introduction tonight? Is there anything that resonated for you in the things I was blasting out on the screen early tonight? Is there anything that resonated for you about what I was saying?
Um I mean, I was listening, but like not really. I don't really know how to respond to it because
How
like my
about COVID?
mind is racing. I got OCD and stuff, and my mind's just
You,
racing,
you got
racing, racing. So this
your
whole
mind
thing
is
for me.
racing. And how about COVID for you? Has that exacerbated the problem, or with the
Yeah,
isolation?
well, I mean, it didn't really affect me because I'm always in the house. I never get out. I'm always quarantined. So when it was happening, it's like it's scary, but for me, it wasn't really a difference.
Yeah. Why'd you want to come on tonight, Dylan? We got you. We got
Um,
you like yesterday or the day before, right? You were very interested in coming on our show tonight. What made you want to come on and tell your story tonight?
just to, I guess if anybody's out there that's listening that's going through something similar, maybe it would help them out. Maybe. I mean, I'm trying my best to talk. It's like this is really hard for me because I've never done nothing like this, and I'm really
Is this the first
anxious
time? First time you've ever talked about this in this kind of way in this
in this
platform?
kind of forum. Yeah,
Wow.
usually this is private, and I'm talking
Wow.
to a therapist.
We're proud. Maya and Whitley, pretty good, huh? We're proud of this guy.
Oh
It's
yeah.
pretty amazing. So, what
Yeah.
would you tell all the people that are watching you tonight, you brave soul? What would you tell people? Uh, what do you want them to learn from you tonight? Because I want this to be really meaningful for you tonight. What do you want those
Um,
people out there to hear from you?
I mean, because I don't really know what to say because I'm still struggling with it. But basically, just keep your head up and just try not to let your mental illness like take over, and try to get as much help as you can because help is out there and you're not alone.
I just have to say, I mean,
Sure.
I
Go
feel
ahead,
like
Mike. Go ahead.
it's important. Dylan, thanks so much for being, for coming on the show. I think it's important, and
Mhm.
mostly important because it's important for other people to know that there are other people going through the same thing that you're going through, and you're not alone. Lots of people go through the same struggle, and life is a struggle, and we need to figure out how to put one foot in front of the other. But just being on here and letting people know that they're not alone and that you're going through the same thing as them, that's what's important.
Yeah. By the
Mhm.
way, there's a quote that I really like. I'm going to quote it right. If we don't transform our pain, we will transmit the pain. So the whole purpose of this show and all of our shows is to transform our pain by talking about it, sharing it, asking for help. And you go out and you really ask for help, right?
Yeah.
Therapy. Who else do you ask for help from besides the therapist?
That's really it. I don't really have anybody to vent my things to, so I kind of keep it bottled inside. So that's why I got on here tonight because you're a psychologist to talk to you. So
Well, you're going to get a chance to have Maya, and before the night is over, by the way, you're going to get a chance to have Maya and Whitley respond to you. Okay, Dylan.
okay,
So thank you for being here. I know you were anxious before we got on the screen. You're doing great. You're doing
thank
great.
you for having me on the show.
Thank you for being so brave and being so open about who you are.
Mhm.
And Whitley,
Mhm.
we've watched you all season long. This is our
Yeah.
10th show, and we've enjoyed watching you. Each time you reveal more about yourself, we learn more about you. It's like a Netflix series. And we've watched it. You even look different tonight. I swear to God, I did not recognize you tonight. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Hair,
I have my hair down and it's like a little more wavy than normal, I guess.
I think
That
that's what
might
it
be it.
was. Because I had to do a double
Yeah.
take on you tonight. So Whitley, we've done the ADD HD show. We've done were you on the Hookup show?
No.
What was the other show you were on this year?
It was oh wait, no, that was it. It was modern hookup culture, I think.
You were on
Yeah,
Hookup
that
Culture
was it.
show too.
Yeah.
But I know because you're here that you have a story to still tell us about mental health and
Yeah.
your journey with mental health. So it's your chance now to share your journey with mental health. So please share.
Over the years, I've struggled with anxiety and depression, more anxiety than depression, I guess, because for me, my struggles with depression, I haven't really been aware that I've been depressed until after the fact, and I know it's weird, but like I'll look back and I'll be like, oh, like I really wasn't in a good state. Like I was aware I wasn't in a good state, but I guess I just didn't want to realize how bad it was. Um, but I'm doing better now, but I still struggle a lot with anxiety. I've recently started going to therapy to help, learn how to cope with it. And I've started taking anxiety medication, which has helped a lot.
What kind of
But
medication is what kind of specifically? What kind of medication?
I don't remember what it's called. They just started me on it like 2 weeks ago, and this is the second one that they had to try because I had a negative reaction to the first one. But it was pretty quick at least, and it wasn't really, really bad. It made me like really physically tired, but like my thoughts were racing. And so I was like, yeah, I don't think this is the right medication. So they put me on this one, and this one works a lot better. It helps me to not constantly overthink, like just a constant loop that's just never ending.
Is this the first time you've been in psychotherapy, by the way?
What do you mean by psychotherapy? Is that just like
you're in therapy now? Did you say you're seeing somebody?
Yes, sir. Right.
Is that something that you just started, or is it the first time you've had this experience?
I was in therapy for maybe 2 or 3 months my freshman year of high school, but I ended up just like I wasn't in there for like anything else much other than like anxiety at that point, which is why I'm in there now. But it got better after a little bit, and so I thought that I didn't really need to go back, and then it just got worse. So kind of quitting therapy was not a good idea for me, I guess.
What are some of you've heard Dylan and Maya talk tonight? What are some of the issues that you have struggled with with your anxiety and depression? What are some of the main things that have come up for you that you've had to struggle with?
It's hard, like with friendships sometimes, because I just constantly worry that I guess that like my friends don't really like me that much, and they're just being nice or just polite, or they just feel bad, and so they're staying in my life to just be good people because my friends are all genuinely amazing people. And so like it's easy to convince myself that they're just being nice, but it's hard with friendships sometimes because it's hard to believe that it's real almost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, now you have a boyfriend, for at least you started to tell us that, and that's new for you, right?
Yeah, he's my first boyfriend. Yeah.
Your first boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what has that done for you?
It's definitely there's a little bit of anxiety there because it's all new and I honestly have no idea what I'm doing. But we're really open communication. We talk about everything, so that's really good for me. And he's the type of guy, like, if we need to talk about something, we'll talk about it, and he's honest about what he thinks. So I don't have much anxiety about what he says not being true or fully open or fully honest, because he's just very open about everything. So
it helps to have a partner who you can do that with.
Yeah,
it's really nice.
That really helps.
And maybe people don't know this about you. Your family. How has your family been with this? Because I know your mother is a psychologist, am I right? That's my father.
Both of my parents majored in psychology or something like that in college. So it's been really helpful having 2 parents with psychology degrees. But
and your mom has been a big fan. Your mom has been great, by the way. She's been a big fan of the show.
Yeah.
So if you're listening tonight, we really appreciate all your support. And you've been terrific for us, and they've been very supportive for you during this whole thing. What have they done for you? As a family?
It's sometimes just have family discussions, and it's kind of like group therapy, but instead of multiple people getting therapized, if that's a word, I have multiple therapists.
In your family,
so it's very interesting. It's very interesting. But
brothers and sisters, by the way, nobody knows. Do you have brothers and sisters? You're an only child.
I'm an only child.
Okay. Yeah, we didn't know that.
But I have 6 little cousins.
Wow.
So
you're in a small town, so that extended family is probably really helpful.
Yeah, but they're spread out, like Atlanta, Pennsylvania, Boston, like a bunch of different places.
And for those of people who have not seen Whitley on other shows, the ADHD show, you would just come out recently on Kids Are Talking about having ADHD as well. Yeah. And your friends, how have your friends been listening to you talk about all these things on Kids Are Talking?
it's been really good. I mean, I talked to a couple of my friends about it, and they're like, honestly, that sounds like me. I might need to go talk to someone about that. And I'm like, yeah. One of them we were talking about, I was like, I kind of wondered, but it's all my friends have been really supportive. It took a long time for me to find like my right friend group because I moved schools in 6th grade, and that was really hard for me. But I have a really good support group now, and that's honestly been probably the most helpful thing.
This is a question I have for all of you, actually. Maybe you can start first. Does depression ever go away? Do you think depression ever leaves anybody, or does it stay with you, really? Do you think it just stays with you for life?
I'm not completely sure. I tend to repress things that I don't want to deal with, which is very unhealthy. Very unhealthy. I'm aware of it and I'm trying to work on it. But I definitely see lingering effects a lot, but I don't know how much of it, or how how much it affects my life still for it to be considered like still fully here in a way that's negative enough to like mention, if that makes sense.
Look, one could make the argument, by the way, Maya, I'm interested what you think about this. One could make the argument that depression can be a creative experience, that we can grow. We've talked about that in last week's show, that being creative comes with depression. And I think just being in the human condition, it's human nature to have tough times and to be depressed and have to look inside. What do you think? Do you think depression is something that's a lifetime journey for all of you or for people, or not? Maya?
Me? Okay. From what I understand about depression, from what I know, depression, especially major depressive disorder, is chronic. While there are situations where you may have a reactive depression, for example, something traumatic happens, you may have what's called a reactive or situational depression. That may not be forever. But in general, depression can be chronic. But what is not good per se, but there are periods of remission where you aren't depressed. And the way you get to remission is meditation and good therapy, along with family and friend support. So unlike some illnesses and disorders where you can't get a break from it at all, depression, sometimes you can, but with the right treatment.
What would you like to say to Whitley and Dylan so far tonight? Would you have a response to listening to Whitley's story and Dylan's story? Would you have anything you want to say to either one of them?
One thing I think is great that both of you are doing, which is that you're seeking help and that you have help. And one of the hardest parts, I think, especially when you're coming to terms with that you're dealing with depression, is asking for help. Being aware and then asking for help. And the fact that you have and that you're getting help is the first huge, most important step. And then when it comes to medication, Whitley, I think it's really important what you did. You had the self-awareness to understand that you were having a negative reaction. And then rather than swear off medication, you're open to trying a new one. And I think that is so important because sometimes someone will have one bad therapist experience or one bad medication experience, and then they'll turn away from all of that kind of care. Whereas what can be really difficult is having the patience with yourself and with the doctors and the people that you're working with to try again.
Well,
multiple times.
What I love about Whitley, I really do love this about you, Whitley, is that you have come public with your personal journey, and your friends are really responding well to it. As a matter of fact, they're even inspired now to maybe get help themselves and talk about their own problems. Am I right?
Yeah, we've definitely, me and a couple of my friends have definitely started talking a little bit more about our personal lives since I've talked to them. Because like if I'm going to come on here and talk about my personal life, I'm like, if you're going to watch this ever, I'm just going to go ahead and like tell you that that's what I'm on there for, just so you know, just so you have like an inkling about a little bit more of the stuff in my life that we haven't talked about before. And that kind of opens the door for us to be able to talk about like our personal lives, including this and just more. So this has really helped me with like the relationships in my life too. So
You're
it's been really
probably
good.
you're probably not typical in your town. It's a small town you live in Georgia, right? You're probably not
North
typical.
Carolina.
North Carolina, of course, North Carolina. You're probably not typical for people in your town, right? You're bringing a new dimension to the teen world of your town. True.
Thank you. Well, I don't know. Everyone in my town is definitely their own person. It's really cool. I mean, it's probably just because we're small, but I don't know. I really like my town.
It's nice. I think your town might like you too. We certainly like
I hope so.
we certainly like you at Kids Are Talking. How about this guy Dylan over here tonight? He really poured his guts out to us. Now, what do you want to say to Dylan tonight?
Like it's
What do we want to say to this guy over here on the right corner of my head? What?
I think it's amazing that you came out to do this. Like it's hard, especially when you have anxiety, to do something like this because it's live and there are people watching and it's not scripted. We really don't know what we're going to say beforehand, but it's amazing and it's brave and like I'm proud of you. Like this is really good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Dylan, what do you think about Maya and Whitley, the way they're responding you tonight to what you're saying tonight? Did it help him?
Yeah, it helps. It's just someone like me. I constantly deal with depression. Like it never goes away. Like it's like as soon as I go to bed and as soon as I wake up in the morning, I'm always depressed. I never feel like any type of happiness inside. So it's like critical depression I'm dealing with.
You felt this way your whole life, Dylan? Have you felt this way your whole life?
Yeah.
Do you feel love? Do you feel that you get love from people?
I mean, I do, but then at the same time, I don't. Like I feel very alone, and I'm like really hard on myself. Like I stare in the mirror for like hours because my self-esteem is so low, and I pick at myself and think I'm ugly and stuff, and then I just like don't go out, don't do anything. I just want to stay in bed and like cry all day. That's really how it is for me.
Yeah. Maya and Whitley, what do you want to say to this guy when he says that? What do you feel like you want to say to this guy when he talks like that? Maya, what do you want to say to him?
Yeah. I think the first things first, to echo what Whitley said, you are so brave and strong for coming onto this show. And the fact that you can not just come onto the show, but then articulate what you're going through is amazing. And that must also really be helpful to the people that you're working with to help get treated. Because one of the most important things you can do is be a self-advocate, to advocate for yourself, so that only you really know what you're going through, and only you can really relay to your therapist and psychiatrist, because the world that we're living in right now is talk therapy. Psychiatry is via just talking. There's no blood test you can take. You can't do your heart rate. It's all talk, and it's sort of, and I believe it's unfortunate that it's like that, because sometimes when you don't have a self-awareness and you can't talk, you can't get the proper help you need. But what you're able to do, you're very introspective and you can communicate that. You're your own agent and you really are helping yourself by to communicate that.
Introspection is a good thing, Dylan. We've been talking about this for 10 weeks. It's good to look inside yourself and reflect. Isolation can be a positive thing, by the way, because we tend to think of isolation in a negative way, but it sounds like what we're talking about tonight, and I think Maya's saying that, is that isolation and being with yourself can be useful and helpful. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Meaningful. It can be very meaningful, and you have your creativity and you have yourself. A lot of people don't know how to do that. Have you ever had a girlfriend, or I don't know what?
I've had many. That's where a lot of my problems have come from. A lot of females have. I've gotten so bad to where I've been in mental hospitals, not just over them, but the stuff that I was dealing with.
So what's happened with those? What's happened with those girlfriends of yours? Those relationships?
Well, when I was 17 is when it really started. I was with this girl. She lived in Canada. It was long distance. So basically, she was cheating on me with this dude, and the guy would send me videos and pictures of them having sex. And I shaved my head and shaved my eyebrows off, and that's when I first went into the mental hospital. And then ever since that relationship, I was just with girls that were constantly cheating on me and doing things behind my back. So I have a lot of trust issues, and then it makes me really low on myself.
That's so you've never had a positive experience. You've just been betrayed.
No.
Well, so Maya and Whitley, what do we want to say to this guy? You got two nice women on the show tonight who are sensitive and feeling. What do we say to this guy about having that experience. What do you think, Whitley? What can we say to him?
I'm really sorry you've gone through that. Like, I definitely understand trust issues and everything. Like, it's hard. It's really hard, and to constantly go through the same thing like over and over again is it's hard to see a different outcome, I guess, after you keep going through the same thing. But eventually it won't happen like that again. Like I don't know exactly how to phrase it, but eventually the cycle will stop, and everyone isn't like that. And sometimes it's better to just have some girls that are just friends instead of just going into relationships. That's what I found with guys. I mean, some of my closest friends are guys.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, you finally got a boyfriend. What made you ready to have a boyfriend?
Honestly, just that it's him, I guess.
It's him.
It felt right. It felt right with other guys. It had never really felt like right before, I guess. But like, I don't really know. It felt right for me, and he's genuinely like a really good guy.
He makes you feel good about yourself. He makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. Like I feel like I'm a really good version of myself when I'm with him. I don't feel like I have to be anything that I'm not, or like hide parts of myself, which I have issues with doing that with other people, even some of my really good friends.
So he helps pull you out.
Yeah.
We talked about that in the Hookup Culture show, I think, about how I always thought you had to love yourself before you can really be with somebody else. But sometimes what a lot of you convinced me of in some of the other shows is that if somebody really loves you and makes you feel good about yourself, that helps you feel good about yourself. So what do you think about that, Maya? That came up in a lot of our shows. I was going to ask you about your life. You have a boyfriend, and what do you think of that concept?
Well, to circle back on what you just said and what Whitley said, I think it's been self-love is such a complicated, multifaceted concept. And I have found that you might love pieces, but it's hard to love the whole thing. And sometimes you do love the whole thing, and sometimes you don't. It can fluctuate depending on what's going on with your life, depending on what you're feeling, what you're reacting to. But I agree with the amendment. I don't think you necessarily need to completely love yourself in order to be loved by someone else.
That's been a big revelation. That's been a very big revelation for me, by the way, that you kids have taught me during the show, because I quoted this guy, Eric Fromm, when I was a psychology student. The first book I read was The Art of Loving by Eric Fromm, and I thought it was the most amazing thing. You have to love yourself before you love others. And I've learned from all of you in these 10 weeks. And Dylan, this is something for you to hear. You see these two women on the show tonight? There might be somebody out there who really sees you for the way you're being seen tonight. Do you have a boyfriend, Maya? Do you have a relationship that's meaningful to you?
Yes, I do. I believe that my boyfriend, my partner, might be watching this show right now.
He's your what?
My boyfriend. Sometimes I call him my partner.
Your partner. Well, that's okay. We know that that's something that we sometimes call our boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever we are these days, because there's he's, there's theys, there's all kinds of pronouns. So you have a boyfriend, right?
Yes.
We have to always ask that nowadays. Okay. And how long have you been in this relationship, and what has it done for you?
This is
with all the stuff you've been through in your life, being around all this pathology, what has a boyfriend done for you?
We've been together about 2 years now, just a little over 2 years. And this is also one of my, Whitley was saying, this is one of your first boyfriends. This is also one of mine. And one of the reasons why I think that is because I've spent a lot of my life in school and after school, and I'm still in school, really focusing on my academics, really focusing on myself, and really learning about how to cope with my own emotions, regulate my own emotions, and really focus on my academics so that I could get to where I want to be studying bipolar disorder finally. It's been a dream of mine. And when I met my partner, it just sort of fell into place. It was very stabilizing. It was very easy. And I think that what was important is honesty and communication, and then just having mutual empathy.
Mutual empathy is good. So did you have a trust issue with everything you'd been around and exposed to growing up? Was it you had to get ready to trust somebody as well, and this guy came along?
I wouldn't necessarily say I had trust issues. And I think that's because I've had a lot of therapy.
Therapy does help, folks. For all of you out there,
Yeah,
and
therapy.
for all you insurance companies, make sure you pay these people for therapy, right?
That's a
So
whole other
therapy.
thing we could get into.
We don't want to get into the insurance company thing. That's a whole other show. That'll be
Do a whole other show.
5
I'm
days.
glad to be on that show.
What's that?
I would love to be on that show.
Okay, well, I'll keep complaining about the insurance companies in the United States, and if we have a show, I'll invite you on it. But I am glad. So, what do you want to tell Dylan and Whitley? You both. I mean, Dylan, what do you think about what these two women? And these are two women that are certainly listening to you tonight. Does it give you any hope listening to their stories?
I mean, yeah, I mean a little bit, but I still like have my doubts and things like that because I'm so like messed up from females.
Yeah.
Like my head and my heart is like so messed up. So it's like I
your
have
heart
a
is
lot
messed up.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I have to like go ahead. No, I was just saying I gotta learn to love myself before I fall in love because I fall in love too easily, and then I always get my heart broken, and then it makes me like end up feeling worse about myself.
So you want to learn to love yourself. In your case, you'd like to learn to love yourself.
Yeah, because I don't at all. I'm at like a battle with myself every single day, and as soon as I look in the mirror, I just feel like punching the mirror basically because I can't stand myself. So
is there anything tonight that we've talked about that would make you feel like you could think about things that could make you love yourself more?
that's the thing. I don't really know. Like I'm struggling really bad in that aspect of it.
Yeah.
So,
well, maybe Whitley, you have any advice for this young man over here?
Keep writing like your raps, like it, creative outlets. It really helps me because if I'm really bad at understanding what emotions I'm having until I write it out. And the more you understand it, the better you can try and figure out how to cope, I guess. So I'd say keep writing, keep trying therapy, maybe try reaching out to some old friends, maybe try making some new ones because support systems really that's been my saving grace is just having people like without that I don't know what I would have done. Just figure out anything that gives you any little bit of happiness and try and figure out how to just run with it.
And the support network is really key. And if you can find comfort in leaning on close family, leaning on friendships rather than maybe romantic relationships, trying to put energy into friendships and writing and journaling. And that, like leaning more into friendships in general to give you more of the grounding that you need to get empathetic listening and get the support that you need. Whereas maybe right now a romantic relationship wouldn't have the best outcome given where you're at and given what you need right now. It sounds like what you need. People need people. I think that's what we can all agree on. We're social creatures.
Yeah, but
I think having people support from friends.
But I'll tell you what I want to say. But I want to say I agree with what you're saying, Maya and Whitley. But I want to say to you, Dylan, and this came up last week, by the way, in the Anxiety and Depression show. You're obviously creative. You obviously write rap. That's a way of transforming your pain into transmitting it into something more positive. How much writing do you do? Because we talked last week about the importance of writing, keeping a journal, just expressing feelings. Because you like you said, you're isolated. When I isolate, by the way. And I said this last week, we would have no music, we'd have no literature, we'd have no arts if we didn't have people like you who suffer from angst. My best writing is when I'm full of angst and when I'm isolated, when I can't take what's going on outside. And so I have to go inside. And so I was just thinking, do you try to do that with your writing? I mean, is that a friendly piece in your life? Do you keep a journal?
Yeah, I usually write in a notebook. I kind of write like poems basically and whatever emotion I'm feeling and whatever.
Does that help?
Yeah, it helps to a certain degree, but then at the end of the day, it's just like really hard being lonely. You know what I mean? It's like to like not really have anybody to like talk to when you're feeling bad, or anything like that, it's very like overwhelming.
How about nature? Do you go out into nature? Do you like the mountains? Do you like the grass? Do you like the trees? Do you like a beautiful sky?
It's like with what I'm going through, it's like it's really hard for me to even like go out anywhere. It's like I have no ambition to even barely go outside. It's like
Really?
my parents basically got to drag me out the house to even leave anywhere because I don't really feel like leaving ever.
Mm. It's tough, really tough, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Anything more that Maya Whitley you want to say about what Dylan is saying? Can you think of any other from your own personal experience? Um, what else we can say to this guy tonight?
I read a lot whenever I need to escape. Escapism isn't a permanent fix or good to do all the time, but I find inserting myself into other people's lives where, there's going to be a happy ending. That's something that's really been helpful for me. Um,
Mm.
that, like, I just buried my head in a book through, like, all of middle school. Like, I read during lunch. I read after I finished all my assignments. Sometimes during recess. Like
What do you like to read? What
in
kind
my
of things
books.
do you like to read?
Like usually like young adult fantasy, maybe some contemporary, sometimes romance. Throw a couple of those in there. But yeah, just you have to find your genre. That's the hardest part because a lot of the ones they assign us in school aren't the best, and so a lot of kids just give up on reading because the books they've been exposed to in school just are not the most interesting. But once you find what you like, it's better.
And Maya, what do you think? What else could you say to Dylan?
Going off of what Whitley said, reading is one way to do this, but getting out of your head is really crucial because when you're in your head, as you know, it can sort of get the best out of you. You can go in circles, and those circles can go downward into spirals. And doing mindless things, whether it's reading or writing or watching a television show, any television show or a movie, just something that's relatively mindless to just get you through those darkest periods.
Do you do that, Dylan? Dylan? Do you read books or do you do any of the things we're talking about?
I don't read books.
No.
I don't read books or anything.
How about TV? You have any escapes?
Yeah, I mean, I like play video games and stuff like that, but that's really it.
Yeah. So there's an article in the New York Times that I want to quote. I don't want to grieve. I don't want to spend the rest of my life grieving. Do we have that article, Mike? It was in the New York Times, I think, yesterday. Do you have that posted up there?
This one?
Yeah, there it is. There's the poet Mary Oliver. I want to read this poem. It's called "The Summer Days." This is a poem for all of you and for anybody listening to this show tonight. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed. The earth is breathing. This is not Mary Oliver now. This is Donald Cohen. The earth is breathing. I can breathe too, because it is still breathing. So the earth, Dylan, the earth is still breathing, and maybe something spiritual. I don't know if you write rap. That was Mary Oliver's poem, by the way. Did that affect any of you when I just read that poem? Start with you, Dylan.
I mean,
because we haven't brought up the issue of spirituality and believing in the nature and the soul of the human condition. Do you have any of that inside of you?
Wait, ask again. Ask the question again. Sorry.
Well, Mary Oliver was talking about kneeling down to the ground, kneeling down to the grass, praying, and really having faith in something spiritual or soulful. Do you ever go to a more spiritual place in yourself?
Yeah. I mean, I pray and do things like that. I mean, in that way, trying to be spiritual.
Does that help?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit.
Were you able to grasp what Mary Oliver's poem, what I was reading? Did that resonate for you at all?
Kinda. I mean, I've had my times where I've dropped down to my knees, crying, and I pray to God to please help
Yeah,
me to stop to feel this way.
that's a good thing to do, buddy. That's a good thing to do. And Whitley and Naya, what did you think about Mary Oliver's poem?
It was really touching. It was deep, and it just, I don't know. It's one of the things that kind of, for me, it's one of the poems that just kind of affects me, but it's hard to explain in words how, I guess.
And Maya, did it resonate for you what Mary Oliver was writing about in her poem?
Yes, I think sometimes when things get to be too much, when things get a breaking point, sort of surrendering to something else, whether that's a spiritual being or the universe or nature, can help just release some of that energy. But I think Mike once posted a comment that someone had commented about talking to seeing a different therapist. What I wanted to tell Dylan was that not every therapist will have the best fit. One of the most important relationships that that everyone needs to work on, that you need to work on, that's the most important relationship, is the one that you have with your treatment team, with your therapist, with your psychiatrist. And if you're not vibing with them, if you don't feel like you're properly getting the help that you need after it's been this long of a time, perhaps going called therapist shopping, looking for another treater that you think will have a better impact on you, that you think will be better able to help you, could really have a tremendous impact on improving your situation.
Do you like your therapist, Dylan? Do you like the people that you've been in therapy with?
I mean, I
It's an
haven't been in
important thing in my.
therapy.
What's that?
I haven't been in therapy for a while. I have like an appointment in 2 weeks, so this is a whole new person I'm meeting. So I don't really know how that's gonna go. But the therapist that I had, I didn't really care for that much.
And what was missing? What was missing with that therapist?
I don't know, but and I have like my issues, like my anxiety issues, where I feel like nobody likes me or I feel like something's wrong with me and stuff. So a lot of times I'll try to like switch therapists and do things like that to try to click with one because they just make me feel like really uncomfortable. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, I think what Maya's saying is true. I think the connection you have with your therapist and the relationship you have with your therapist, Whitley, I think you might have that. I'm hoping is that what makes a good therapist, Whitley? What do we look for in a good therapist?
Whenever you feel like you can be completely open and honest, and like they're truly listening, but a lot of therapists can do that. You have to, kind of like Maya said, you have to be able to click with them, because some do like specialize in things more than others do, and some have more experience treating people that have similar experiences as you do. So it's really about finding the people or the person that you click with, that you feel comfortable talking to.
So the big word for me tonight, first of all, we're all grieving. So Dylan, are you there? You disappeared. I don't know what happened to Dylan, but we're all grieving. We're all trying to figure it all out. And one of the things that helps us the most, in my opinion, you're seeing it, and I'm sure you both have it with your boyfriend and in your therapies and whatever else, is to have empathy. Empathy is the key. Dylan, we were just saying that we're all grieving. And one of the most important elements, not only with therapists, certainly you haven't had it with a girlfriend yet, is to have somebody have empathy, to give you empathy. Are you okay, Dylan? You look upset right now. Are you okay?
No, I'm fine. I just kind of got I just got a little bit of a cold, so I just keep
a little bit of a cold.
So
did you get? I want to know, Dylan. Did we give you empathy tonight?
Yeah, it made me feel a lot better. That's why I came onto the show, because I'm struggling so bad. I needed to get what I'm feeling inside out, and it's helped a little bit.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So we're going to give you the first, what would be the take home? What would you tell people that are watching the show tonight? What would you say would be the most helpful thing that you would want to tell people to do from this show tonight, who are suffering like what you're suffering from?
I don't, this is like, I'm like struggling, but like I said, I guess basically just try to get help, keep going to therapy, take medication, and keep your head up. I mean, that's all I can really say.
But what did you get tonight from these two women and me?
Okay.
And kids are talking.
I don't know. This like I'm sorry, I'm struggling. I'm like so anxious. I don't know what.
It's okay. It's okay. We
Like,
said last week it's okay to not be okay.
yeah.
Dylan, it's okay to be not okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like
Whitley,
a.
okay, you want to say something else before I move to Whitley?
No, you can go ahead.
All right. Well, you did great. Thank you, Dylan. Whitley,
Mhm.
what would you tell people tonight? What do you want them to? What do you want to tell people tonight?
Talk to people, whether it's a parent, a friend, a therapist. Therapy really, I think therapy is important for everyone. I think every single person can benefit from therapy in one way or another. Just talk to someone. Look,
Ask for
don't
help.
obsess over it. Yeah, ask for help, but look inside yourself and try and see what's really affecting you and why it's affecting you. For me, kind of psychoanalyzing myself has helped a lot to really understand why I'm hurting, because then I can try and find a solution, I guess. So look inside, but don't obsess over it, I guess. And find creative outlets to get your feelings out in a healthy way. And it's good to look back on later, I guess. Like old things that I've written down. Some of them make me want to cry, knowing that's what I thought when I was like 12, 13. But others it it feels good to kind of know that some things you've moved past, to know that it gets better.
It's okay to cry, though, isn't it? It's okay to feel.
Oh yeah, no, crying is amazing. I hate crying in front of people because being vulnerable is hard sometimes, but crying is very helpful.
I love vulnerability, by the way. You can be vulnerable anytime with me, and it'll make me feel closer to you. Okay, you just know that. And I've gotten to know you this year. This whole
Yeah.
summer, you've been a big part of my summer, and I want to tell you that it's been really an honor to have you and watch your maturity and your growth and your openness. It's been really, we've been very fortunate. So I want you to know that.
Thank you. I've loved being on here. This has been an amazing experience that I'm never going to forget.
And we're not done with you because we're going to follow you into college too. Just like we have
Awesome.
Maya and
Well,
all
I'm
the other.
here.
We're mixing
I'm
all
here.
the ages up, Maya. And so, Maya, what would you like to say tonight to people that watch the show?
I think one thing that Whitley and Dylan have shown us is how important it is to just keep talking, keep seeking help. And then one thing I would add is that you can never have too big of a support network. You can never have too big of a team, too many mentors, too many sources of support. And that would equal having never enough empathy. And I was just going to say, like, being able to, because you can't get everything you necessarily need from one person. So having different folks to go to, whether it's therapists, psychiatrists, parents, friends, family, friends, reaching out for help and then finding the right people who will listen and give empathy but not sympathy, who will listen without getting scared and running away. Those are the true people that you want to stay close to.
Thank you. That's a great point. And Dylan, is your family watching you tonight, Dylan?
I don't think so.
Does your family give you the support that you need?
I mean, in a way, but I mean, like my dad and stuff doesn't really understand me, and my mom, she has like mental illness and stuff, so it's kind of hard.
So you don't have that one person that you can count on to go to,
No.
right?
No.
Well, we're here for you, Dylan, and thank you for coming tonight. What a brave thing to do, and we hope that you come on again and be part of our Kids Are Talking family now. We're an extended family. Maya, you're now part of that. Whitley's in it, right, Mike?
Yeah.
I think we're going to close it down by you and I just getting how you felt about watching this tonight.
Yeah, listen, thanks everybody, Whitley, Dylan, Maya, thank you very much for participating, sharing your story, inspiring people. We're here to help, and we're here to, hopefully help each other. That's what Kids Are Talking is all about. So I appreciate, Maya, your insight into all of the neuroscience research that you're doing. I think that's amazing. I think it's a very admirable path to take. And Dylan, thank you for your bravery and for coming on and sharing your story. I know I know we had some side conversations, and I know it's been hard for you. So I hope that this is at least help a little bit to help you feel, you know, we're expanding your support network, just like Maya said. You know, you have an extended network now, so you're welcome to come back on future shows, and we'll keep you in the loop of things. And you know, even if you're not on the show, we of course want you to watch, and we can, you know, we can hopefully get your insight into those as well. And Whitley, you're amazing as always, and you have great insight for everybody. And you're an inspiration for all our audience. So,
and Dylan, if we could right now, does anybody ever hug you, Dylan?
No.
Well, you have a virtual hug from me.
Would you like a hug from all of us right now, Dylan?
Sure. I mean,
you don't get hugged. So
no,
can we hug?
Really.
Can we all hug at Dylan right now? Maya, what do you think? Do you think a good hug would be good for Dylan?
Yeah, sending virtual hug.
Yeah.
Appreciate
and you know
it.
what, Dylan? I'm sorry that you haven't found a woman like Maya and Whitley, but maybe you could see from tonight that there are some good women out there who want to love a man who feels, who's open, who's sensitive.
And I have to say, Dylan,
really
you know,
something.
before I was married, I used to write a lot of music, and most of it was extremely depressing. That was my way of getting my depression out on paper, and I would sing. I would, you know, I play guitar, so I would write my lyrics and sing my songs, and that was I would basically be my own therapist when Dr. Don wasn't around. And I think that's probably right now your best tool to help you get through the day, is to make sure you get your thoughts down and get them out, because there's nothing worse than holding something inside. And that goes for everybody. To
keep rapping.
Yeah, just rap.
Keep rapping, man. I love rap music.
If rap is your passion, you should follow your passion.
It's great poetry. Who's your favorite rapper? Who's your favorite rapper, Dylan?
They're like underground, but their name is Suicide Boys, and they like have mental illness and stuff, and it like kind of helps me out with stuff I got going on in my life.
Well, I want to just again thank you, Maya, thank you, Dylan, thank you, Whitley, and all of you at Kids Are Talking. There's no way now to say mental health is not serious. It needs to be heard, respected, taken seriously.
I think we also did want to mention, if anyone is having problems with suicide, there is a national suicide prevention hotline that everyone is welcome to reach out to if you have problems. 800-273-8255. So that's an important number to remember, because no one should ever feel that alone.
Dylan, we need you, buddy.
Thank you.
And the people that are watching you tonight need to hear your story and see a beautiful, sensitive soul inside of you. So again, from all of us, our Kids Are Talking.
Yeah, keep talking. Watch and learn.
There's always more, and mental health, there's always more to talk about mental health. And God bless all of you. Thank you all for being part of these first 10 shows, the support and feedback from all of you. Stay with us as we're going to move into a new season in the fall. We have one more show, we think, this summer that's going to be a kind of a wrap-up show, but we're going to go into the school year, and God knows what we're walking into with the Delta variant and COVID and everything else, but we're going to be here every week to have all of you watch and hear from all these kids about what's going on, so we can all keep learning.
Keep learning and keep moving.
So good night. Transform your pain and transmit it into something positive and healthy. Thank you, Mary Oliver, for your poetry. Thank you, all of you. And good night. Good night, Mike.